Heyo, so I am going to be reading some scary stories from Reddit Scary Stories. This this story is called "I Knew Something Felt Off," about one of my childhood friends, and it was written by Society Menace CC. When I think back to my childhood, my memories are a mixture of the innocent and the eerie. Growing up in a small town where everyone knew each other, my friends and I spent our days exploring the woods and fields that surrounded our neighborhood. It was the summer of 15 years ago, the summer when we met Bernard. Michael, Zachary, and I were inseparable. Michael was the kind of kid who could make friends with anyone. He had a smile that could light up a room and a laugh that was contagious. Zachary was different. He was half friend, half bully, always teasing and testing us, but in his own way, he was loyal. The three of us had our own little world, a realm of adventure and secrets that only we knew. One afternoon, while we were playing hide and seek in the woods behind Zachary's house, we stumbled upon a boy we had never seen before. He was sitting on a fallen tree, staring at the ground. He looked about our age, maybe a year or two older, with dark, tousled hair and piercing blue eyes. "Hey, who are you?" Michael called out, always the first to extend a hand. The boy looked up, his expression unreadable. "Bernard," he said softly. "I've never seen you around before," I said, stepping closer. "Do you go to our school?" Bernard shook his head. "Just moved here." Cool, Michael said, grinning. "You want to play with us?" Bernard nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. We welcomed him into our group, and for the rest of the day, we ran through the woods, playing games and climbing trees. Bernard was quiet, almost shy, but there was something about him that intrigued us. He moved with a strange grace, his eyes always watchful, as if he were constantly on guard. Zachary, true to form, tested Bernard's boundaries. He teased him, called him names, but Bernard never reacted the way Zachary expected. He would simply stare at Zachary, his expression calm and composed, until Zachary would eventually give up and move on. One day, Zachary brought his disposable camera, one of those old ones with the film you had to get developed. "Let's take a picture," he said, gathering us together. We huddled close, Bernard standing slightly apart, and Zachary snapped the picture. It captured a moment in time, the four of us smiling and carefree. That picture would later become a haunting reminder of the events that would unfold. As the summer wore on, Bernard's presence became a regular part of our days. He never spoke much about his family or where he lived, and whenever we asked, he would change the subject. But we don't mind. We were just happy to have another friend. Then, one day, Bernard didn't show up. We waited at our usual spot in the woods, but he never came. The next day was the same, and the day after that. Weeks turned into months, and we never saw Bernard again. We assumed he had moved away, as mysteriously as he had arrived. Life went on, the years passed, and our childhood adventures became distant memories. I joined the police force, driven by a desire to protect and serve. It was a job that required me to face the darkest aspects of humanity, but it also gave me a sense of purpose. One rainy afternoon, while cleaning out my attic, I stumbled upon a box of old photos. Among them was the picture Zachary had taken that summer. I stared at it, a flood of memories washing over me. There was Michael, Zachary, Bernard, and me, captured in a moment of innocent joy. A strange feeling settled in my gut. Bernard's face seemed to stare back at me, his eyes more intense than I remembered. I took the photo to work the next day, unable to shake the feeling that something was off. I showed it to a colleague who specialized in cold cases. "Hey, take a look at this," I said, handing him the photo. "Do you recognize this kid?" He examined it closely, his brow furrowing. "Give me a second." He walked over to his desk and began sifting through files. After a few minutes, he pulled out a faded document and compared it to the photo. "This is Bernard," he said, his voice hushed. "Bernard Thompson. He was missing almost 30 years ago. It's one of our oldest cold cases." A chill ran down my spine. How could Bernard have been missing for 30 years when we met him only 15 years ago? It didn't make sense. Driven by a hunch, I decided to investigate further. I returned to the woods where we used to play, the place where we had first met Bernard. The trees had grown thicker, the paths more overgrown, but it was still the same place. I walked deeper into the woods, my mind racing with possibilities. As I reached a small clearing, I noticed something half buried in the underbush. It was a piece of fabric, tattered and weathered by time. I knelt down, my heart pounding, and began to dig. The earth was damp and heavy, but I kept at it, my hands trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. Then I saw it. A skeletal hand, fingers curled as if reaching for something. I unearthed the rest of the remains, my breath catching in my throat. There, in the shallow grave, lay the skeletal remains of a child long forgotten and alone. I called for backup, my mind numb with shock. As we waited for the forensic team to arrive, I couldn't shake the feeling that Bernard was still watching me, his piercing blue eyes following me and my every move. The investigation confirmed what I really knew. The remains belonged to Bernard Thompson, a boy who had gone missing nearly 30 years ago, but the mystery of how he had appeared to us 15 years ago remained unsolved. I often think back to that summer, to the strange, quiet boy who appeared out of nowhere and then vanished just as suddenly. Bernard's ghost, or whatever he had been, left an indelible mark on our lives. Michael and Zachary, when I told them what I had discovered, were as bewildered as I was. We may never know the full truth of what happened, but I can't help but feel that Bernard was trying to tell us something. Perhaps his restless spirit sought companionship, a way to reach out and be remembered. Or maybe there are things in this world that we simply cannot understand, forces beyond our comprehension that shape our destinies. Whatever the case, I know one thing for certain. Some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, lingering in the shadows of our past, forever haunting our memories. Hi everybody, I hope you enjoyed the first scary story video I've done ever in my life. If you liked it, please subscribe, please like the video, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. More to come, and thank you, thank you, thank you.